Welcome back to Love After Narcissistic Abuse. My name is Ashleie Elaine,
I am Rakia. The people call me Keys.
and we have collaborated to bring you a sacred and safe space of vulnerability, healing, and affirmation, giving you space to know and remember that loving yourself begins in a healthy, loving yourself and being in a healthy relationship and partnership is possible. Y'all, I'm tongue tied. It's been a long week, so bear with me.
Sure.
This episode, we are diving into opening yourself up to love again. We're going to just talk about vulnerability, dive into Key's beautiful love story, y'all. I just love seeing it and hearing it and all of the things. I keep thinking about when you announced that you got married, your pictures, like the whole nine. I was like,
Yes.
So all of it. So grab your tea, maybe even your journal. Find your comfortable seated space and let's get into it. Go ahead and just get centered, get grounded, get into our heart space, get into our body. So find that comfortable seated posture. One that will allow you to keep your heart space open. And you can bring your gaze down your nose or completely close your eyes. And I want you to locate where your shoulders are. Right? Where are your shoulders? Are they rounding forward? And if they are, just take a minute to adjust. And a lot of our posture, one thing I've learned in my yoga studies, a lot of our posture speaks to where we are emotionally, what we're feeling, what we're holding, what we're carrying, what we're hiding. Right? And there's a lot of vulnerability sometimes when we are opening our heart or afraid to open up our heart, or just anywhere in that top chest area where our heart resides. We allow our shoulders to be the curtain, to be the closer, to be the door. Just give yourself permission in this space to be vulnerable with self first, to open your heart back up to you first. And once you've located your shoulders, just begin to locate your breath. And sending your breath to your heart space. And allowing each inhale to just bring in new life, bring in new clarity, bring in new love towards yourself. And as you exhale, cleansing whatever is there that no longer belongs to you, what no longer is serving you, what is no longer moving you towards your highest and greatest version of self. And maybe allowing yourself to envision as you inhale the earth supporting you, your spirit team supporting you in opening your heart more, bringing in clarity, bringing in more love, bringing in more joy. And as you exhale, maybe seeing whatever is needing to be washed away, being washed away. Maybe it's grudges that you're holding on to. Maybe it's shame that you're holding on to. Maybe it's doubt that you're holding on to. Well, inhale more love, more joy. And exhale the shame, the guilt, the fear. Inhale support, guidance, redirection. And exhale the shame, the fear, the invalidation. And notice where you might be clenching or gripping, allowing yourself to release with each exhale. Seeing your heart as a home. You are the beholder of the key to this home. You are the authoritative. You have the authority over what is inside this home. So you get to pick, you get to choose what you want this home to feel like, to look like, to beat like. Sometimes the wind has to come in and take what it needs to because of the fear that you've allowed and letting go. Let go. It's okay. Allow yourself to be vulnerable with self. As long as you always remember that you hold the key, you have the authority to release and to restore your heart space. Mm. Someone needed that reminder. Mm. And we'll take 3 rounds of breath. Nice big inhale and exhale. One more nice big inhale and exhale. Last one, heart space open, shoulders wide as if you're trying to get the shoulder blades to meet one another. Drawing the breath from the soles of the feet. Nice big inhale, bringing it all the way up through the body to the crown of your head. And gently exhale, keeping the body nice and calm. Thinking about those things that bring you joy, that make you feel loved. And when you are ready, you can slowly blink open your eyes and come back into the space. Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Mm.
Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and get a message from Spirit. We're going to call in all of our benevolent ancestors and those who are listening to this. Call in those who make you feel safe that may have passed on, calling your guides or whatever higher power it is that you work with. And if you have a question on your heart, just meditate on it. We're going to pull a card from Spirit, see what Spirit wants this collective to know for this episode of Heart Healing. I am using a different deck today. This is actually called my Psychic Tarot of the Heart deck. So this goes directly to your heart space. So we're going to see what messages come out. Spirit, what messages do you have for our viewers, our listeners, our watchers, those who have been rocking with us? There are a lot of cards that just flipped over. I want to pick the one that just came out face up. The one on the floor that I can see. What is this card? It's interesting that it's funny that it came out on the floor because it feels like it's behind you.
Mm.
For whoever may be listening to it. The card that came on the floor this is called a Five of Pentacles. Um, and this card says feeling alone. So because it came out on the floor, I feel like a lot of people are moving out of that space. And the card that's sitting in front of me says move. So when it comes to feeling alone, it feels like spirit is encouraging a lot of people to release the disappointments. Releasing the disappointments, and maybe you're coming out of this energy of feeling disappointed, feeling like you've been abandoned, left out in the cold, neglected, or just that you aren't worthy. And it feels like spirit is calling for you to move forward. Okay, so we have two hands. Somebody could be tying the knot soon, or if you've been manifesting love, manifesting marriage, or just manifesting a deeper commitment to yourself. It feels like spirit is saying like you're on the right track and it's coming in for you. And the more love that you pour into yourself, the more your external environment is going to begin to reflect that back to you, even through relationship encounters, partnerships, collaborations, or just more things that you enjoy. So for those of you who may be into astrology or just knowing what's happening right now in the cosmos. So we did just come out of with a new moon in Pisces energy. So you could have been feeling this energy of maybe some emotional debris, some emotional baggage, that this new moon was calling for you to surrender. Okay. And as you move more into karma waters. So within astrology, we have what's called Venus retrograde is getting ready. It actually starts today on March 1st. This is also Women's Month, so happy Women's Month to all of my sisters that are watching this. May this month in this season just grant you a sense of renewal. But this card is saying that it's time for a shift. So maybe you're coming out of some heavy energy and moving into more this lighter space, feeling lighter in your heart, knowing that what's behind you is behind you. It served its purpose and ultimately is leading you into a better space. So for those who've been thinking about moving, transitioning, buying new cars, or you're just in the space of transition, spirit is encouraging you to literally follow your heart. And for some of y'all, love is literally coming in. This is a chariot card in traditional tarot. And the chariot card is representative of not only willpower and determination, but it's literally saying you take the good, you take the bad, and you keep moving. You have to take all aspects of the things that are going around you, the light and maybe some darkness or some baggage that you're carrying to direct your will forward. So this card is letting you know you're moving in the right direction. And for some of you, you're moving right into this space of love or partnership and commitment if that's what you want. So hold on, girls. Hold on to it. If love is what you want, I am here to encourage you guys to hold on to it. Don't give it up.
Mm-mm.
Don't
Please
give it
don't.
up.
Mm-mm. Yes, amen to the church, guys.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I kept seeing while I was doing the meditation, I kept seeing green, even though I know
Mhm.
like that's the heart chakra, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what cards you were like, what your deck was going to look like. So when I
Yeah.
opened my eyes and you pulled out the deck, I was like, oh, of course, of
Yeah.
course, of course. We're on brand, on brand. Uh,
Absolutely.
I love it. Um, Man, it's always so fitting. Like, Spirit always knows how to guide, how to orchestrate the space, everything that you were saying with like moving forward, right? It takes a lot of vulnerability to move forward.
It does.
It takes a lot of vulnerability to move forward because you want to move yourself into a space where you don't stay stuck, right? And from personal experience, I've allowed myself to stay stuck in those abusive relationships
Hmm.
even though I wasn't physically there anymore, right?
Yeah.
So part of recognizing and confronting fear of vulnerability is really giving yourself permission to fully move on, to
Yeah.
fully let go, to fully acknowledge that as much as you may have loved somebody, it is also okay that they are not good for you.
Absolutely.
Even if you are trying to figure out what good for you looks like and feels like, right? Because sometimes we don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I was doing something yesterday and this fell off my wall. It said, and I wrote this like random one day. It said, I'm grateful that my soul knows me better than my ego does.
Ooh.
Right. And sometimes when we're moving out of these relationships, Key, you've mentioned this before where you're like you were still physically there, but your body, like your mental and everything else was gone,
Hmm.
right? It can also be the reverse where we're physically not there, but our soul still wants to like be attuned to that person or that space or that because it's the last version of us that we can connect to, right? So when we're talking about vulnerability, we're talking about cutting the cord.
Yeah, for sure.
First
For
and
sure.
foremost, right? We're talking about grieving a version of you that is no longer, right? Even while you're trying to figure out this new version of you or what version of you is emerging. We're talking about being able to say to yourself, like moving through all of those emotions that come up when it's time to exit stage left, and when you start loving yourself, right? Being vulnerable with yourself. It's a lot like self-care, like we talked about last episode. Being honest with yourself about what it is that you don't like, right? Your favorite color, right? These
Mhm.
the little things, right? Being vulnerable with yourself is being all in with you. I have made a vow to myself that until I was all in with myself, I would no longer be all in with somebody else that wasn't showing me that they were all in with themselves.
That's a powerful place to be.
Because if I can't keep a word to myself, I can't like expect somebody to expect me to keep my word to them, and then vice versa, right? I want to know that someone that my partner can keep a word to themselves, can keep discipline, can keep all of these things. I have to be able to do those things. So we're talking about vulnerability, right? We can't just expect it from other people to be open and transparent
Mhm.
until we're able to do it with ourselves. Key, what's been your experience with vulnerability moving from the narcissistic abusive relationship into your beautiful union? Oh, I'm excited.
Vulnerability for me, um, was a difficult one. Was a
Mhm.
difficult one because I felt like I discussed in the last episode of like, part of me was still like one foot in and one foot out. And I think I finally got to, as a day that I remember, it was like a day I was humiliated and I finally accepted what the reality of the situation was. And that was me being
Mm,
honest with myself, like, girl, you see what it is. It's not your brain can no longer try to convince you that this is something different. Not only your brain, but your heart space,
mm,
because when love is involved, even even if it's not favorable to us, those heartstrings, we still want to connect to the person, believing that this person can change, or it can be different, or maybe if I do something different, or maybe if they go seek help, the situation can be different. And vulnerability to me really means being able to be honest and truthful with yourself.
mhm,
And that was really hard for me because that's not what I wanted to hear.
mm,
I
mm,
was
mm,
very
mm,
much a person where it's like, if it wasn't what my heart was telling me at the time, it's like my brain, it would go through one ear and out the other.
mm,
So I had to get to that place of saying, hey, girl, this is not working. You're sad. And this has now it's becoming dangerous for me to
mm,
stay in this relationship, because it started to get physically abusive as well as emotional abuse. Um, and once it started to become physically abusive, it's almost like something kicked in and was like, you have to leave now. Cause I'll keep it very real with you. I remember there was a point in time during that relationship where I did not want this person to have breath in their body.
mm,
And that was a very real state that I was in. It also got very dangerous for me because it made me want to physically harm them.
mhm,
And just being really transparent, me and this person got into a physical altercation, the day that I finally separated. And when I
Yeah.
mean separated, I don't mean like you leave and you keep going back and forth. No, that was my last day that I saw this person face to face. We got into a physical altercation and I tried to take his face off. And I
Mm.
was an emotional wreck. And I think that was my breaking point,
Yeah.
because when it comes to vulnerability, usually vulnerability stems from some type of trauma or past experience where there's harm that has been done, whether it's emotional, whether it's psychological. And I believe the root word of vulnerability is vulnus. I think it's a Latin word. Don't quote me, y'all. Okay, Google it. But the root word is Latin and it's Latin for wound. So vulnerability is connected to a wounding, and if there's some type of wounding within your emotional body, then it draws out kind of like a fear of being emotionally available or connection, building connection with other people. So I had to
Mm.
get comfortable with being vulnerable and being honest with myself. And if you guys listen to the last episode, that's what took me leaving that relationship into my spiritual awakening, into healing my childhood trauma, my self-discovery journey. And within that self-discovery journey, I think I was single for about like 5 years after that
Mm.
relationship. That's how much time I gave myself, y'all. And
Yeah.
not because I wanted to, but because I needed it to learn who I was,
Hmm.
to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like. So being in that journey, the last 2 years of that journey, I went celibate. So I did start dating at one point, and let's face it, like when it comes getting back into the dating world, especially after being in a toxic relationship with somebody, we all have a fear of being hurt again. And I
Hmm.
don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. So I started to pick people apart. And any little thing that I didn't like, it was like, no, no, no. And I was like, okay, girl, you're not gonna be happy like that. And it's like nobody's gonna be able to fill your cup completely. So the things that you desire for yourself, like give those things back to yourself and let somebody compliment you versus completing you. And
Mm.
I want a
Yeah.
lot of women to understand that you have to be able to complete yourself. You have to
Hmm.
feel whole within yourself. And I'm not saying that you have to be completely healed in order to meet your person or to allow love in. It just means that you know yourself well enough to know that whether somebody is in your life or not, you are still good.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So the last 2 years of my celibacy journey, I was dating around and then I realized I kept meeting the same energy in different bodies. And I was like, okay, something's not right because I'm doing the work on me. So why do I keep meeting these same people who don't want the same things that I want? And then I was like, okay, let's stop. Let's put a pause on this and let's really identify what type of person you desire. Y'all, I wrote it down on the list. When they say manifestation is real, manifestation is real. I
Yes, it
literally
is.
wrote every single thing down. What I wanted
Wow.
him to look like, his build, down to his physical features, right? Wrote everything down. And then what I started to do was I started being happy for other people. So I wasn't
Yes.
one of those women, and I'm grateful that I wasn't like this, but I started to celebrate other people's love. Because
Yeah.
I realized if I'm celebrating your love, or let's say you have something good going on in your life, that means I'm in the energy of it because you're in my aura. So that means,
Yeah.
oh my God, this person is with somebody and they happy. It's coming closer to me,
Yes.
y'all. I can remember I was in the house in my house one day. I had just got my own apartment. I was living life. I encourage every woman. I think you should live by yourself for a little bit just to get to know yourself. Is a different level of freedom that you will just it's unexplainable.
When you can sit on your own couch,
Bra off, just hanging
just
and
out.
it's free. It is
Yes.
freedom.
Free.
And then
Mm.
you can determine who comes in and out in your space.
Yes.
So I was in the house one day and I was just playing around. I put it on social media too. And I was like, man, I don't want to be a strong black woman no more. I'm ready for my man to come and get me. That way he can come get this jar out the top of the cabinet because I can't reach it. And when he see me reaching it, he'd be like, didn't I tell you I could do it? And I was joking. Y'all, I'm actually manifested that situation into my life.
Ah.
So, me doing the love work on myself, me taking care
Mm.
of myself, me loving myself, and me forgiving my ex.
Mm.
I
Mm.
struggled with that because like, when
Mm.
I say hate him with a passion, I mean, like, I had left the relationship, but I still didn't want him to breathe, and I'm just being very honest. I
Yeah.
questioned God because it's like, how could you allow somebody like that to do these things to me? And then I had that vulnerability. It's like, okay, let's be honest with ourselves. You also allow some of that stuff to happen to you.
Mhm.
And it was like,
Mm.
okay, but he's still not a good person, you know? But it was like, I shifted my perspective from blaming him to being thankful for what that relationship taught me.
Whew. Mm.
Because it
Mm.
taught me to see me.
Yeah.
And it taught me some things that I didn't fully heal from: childhood trauma, things that happened to me when I was a teenager, physical abuse when I was a child. And it taught me to stop running from my problems because I thought
Mhm.
that love was going to fix everything. And what that relationship did was it exploited and it highlighted those wounded areas that I still had.
Mhm.
So I extracted the lesson from that relationship and started to apply that to my life. Um, which led me into the awakening and the journey. And yeah, and to being married, y'all. So if you guys don't know, you guys don't know, okay, Rakia is newly married. I am a newlywed. I got married to the love of my life last October, and we are almost 6 months in. And I can honestly say, y'all, that when I can't stop smiling, but I can't put my cheeks all up here. This is the healthiest relationship that I've had with another person because I started a
Mm.
healthy relationship with myself first, and
Yeah.
I gave myself time before I got back into dating or a serious relationship. And once I stopped dating, I told myself like what I wanted from a partner, what the attributes I wanted him to have, the characteristics. This time I knew exactly what I wanted. I needed him to be kind. I
Mm.
needed him to be okay with my spiritual practice. That's something that was very, very important to me.
Mhm.
Because my spiritual practice is what keeps me sane. And it's something that I'm going to do regardless of whether I'm with somebody or not.
Yeah.
I needed him to respect that. I wanted him to be emotionally intelligent. I wanted him
Mhm.
to be, solid and spiritually in tune within himself.
Mm.
I needed him to have a clear mind. I wanted him to know exactly what he wanted. And I can remember one day I actually met my husband on Instagram. I met my husband on Instagram, y'all. Okay. I would never forget it. I was doing a live one day and I did not want to go live that day. Something kept saying, like, just do it, just do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening to spirit. So I did a live that day. And one of my homeboys actually got on a live, and he's an entrepreneur, and he was frustrated about the entrepreneurship journey. But I realized in that live, he was directing his frustrations towards me.
Mm.
And my husband at the time, my husband, who's not my husband now, at the time, we were just following each other, and he chimed in on the conversation to give a man's perspective on what it's like from an entrepreneurship journey. And I was like, thank you. So I hopped in his inbox. I hopped in his inbox. I made the first move, and it wasn't romantic at first. I was just super grateful to him for jumping in that conversation and kind of coming to my defense because my homeboy was really, it didn't feel like he was my friend at that point. Like he was just throwing his frustrations at me.
Mm.
And I just thanked him for offering his perspective man to man, because I'm a woman. It's like, hold on. I can give you
Yeah.
some keys of light, and I can give you some guidance when it comes to entrepreneurship journey, but I don't have that experience because I'm not a man.
Right.
And my husband jumped in there and offered his perspective, and I slid into his inbox thanking him. And literally from that day, we spoke every single day after that. So for those of
Mm.
you who follow me, who know that I am an intuitive psychic, I'm an intuitive reader, reading tarot and oracle cards, posting spiritual guidance and messages. And at that time, it was dangerous because a lot of men were into it too. And I was meeting a lot of men who were into the cards. So they wanted to get close to me for the information that I have. They wanted
Mm.
to get close to me to like almost like pick my brain. So I was very leery when it came, especially on. I told myself I was not going to do it on social media. Nope, I meet somebody in person. Nope, I'm not going to talk to nobody on social media. God said, I'm
I
about to make
got this.
because you had a plan. Watch this. And we spoke every single day after that. Um, every single day. And he took an interest in Rakia, not intuitive keys online. You
Mm.
know, he checked on me every day. We spoke. I think that was in April of 2022. I saw him for the first time in person July of 2022. And it's interesting how God works because I met my husband right before my grandmother died.
Mm.
And when my grandmother died, I was renting the apartment. She lived in a two-story house. I was renting the apartment from her. And to make a longer story short, um, when she died, maybe like 3 days after her death, I was told I had to leave.
Mm.
Now, this apartment was my safe space. I had flourished there. I was doing my thing. And to be told that I have to leave my safe space, I took that very hard on top of grieving,
Yeah.
you know. And the person who told me that was my dad.
Mm.
So it came from a family member at that time, which was even more hurtful. And he wasn't my man yet, but we have been conversing since that day of meeting online. And he knew what the situation was. And he told me, he said, um, he said, we getting deeper into this, I'm riding it out with you, and there's always a safe space for you here. Now I'm like, hold on, y'all. Okay, because I didn't went from a relationship before. I lived with my ex. That was the first relationship I lived with another man. So moving back in with another man, my internal alarm started going off, and everything in me was the fear in me
Yeah.
was like, no, 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 no. You gotta have your own. You gotta have this. My ex used to tell me when we got into an argument, like, you could leave, you could get out. So he would always use kicking me out or putting me out, as a way to kind of like reel me back in or remind me that I had nowhere else to go.
Mm.
So my internal alarm started to go off when it came towards that. And against all my fears, I jumped. I took a leap of faith and I said, okay, this is getting deeper. I've met him in person now, which was July 4th. My grandmother died in August of 2022. Y'all, by October 2022, we were living together. In October of 2024, we were married.
Mm.
So I had to overcome not only vulnerability, but a fear of being hurt again and moving into a completely new space. And as a person who dealt with a traumatic relationship for 8 years, you know, starting a new relationship was very nerve-wracking for me.
Mm.
But I didn't want to deny myself love.
Yeah.
I said,
Mm.
I'm a good person and I look good. Like, I don't want to deny myself the opportunity to let somebody love me. And even in speaking to a lot of women who come out of that space from a toxic relationship and speaking about what they desire, I always encourage them, if that's what you want, don't give it up. Like, we
Yeah.
know what happened to you within that relationship, and we know like the scars that it left on you. And maybe you've healed some of your wounds, but doesn't mean that your scars are not there.
Mm.
So allowing yourself to be loved and to receive that love and what that love looks like to you and how you identify with love, is a major factor when it comes to letting somebody new in and reminding you that, hey, you are lovable.
Yeah.
And within this new relationship, one of the things that I had to do early on was I spoke about my past. And that's something that I don't, it get a little sticky when you gotta
Yeah.
when you talking about your past to a new person out of fear that they're gonna use your past against you.
Yeah. Or
I put myself
even,
in that vulnerable state.
yeah, or even be like, oh man, like
Yeah, like that's
you
too much, or you
yeah,
got
like you got
too much
bags.
going
Like,
on.
yeah, and it's like, but every person walking this planet has a suitcase.
Absolutely.
So it's like at some point, like we don't have to jive with everybody's past or even where they are now and we want to, and that's where like that spiritual work comes in, right? Like
Yeah.
trusting our intuition again, and um listening to, like listening, like really listening with not just, our private parts, or oh, he looked good, like
Yeah.
let me listen,
Yeah.
right? But really paying attention to, okay, well, this is what they're telling me has happened, but what I'm feeling from this person now is something different, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, at some point, like we knew they were a fuckboy and just continued with
That's very true. I don't think a lot of people want to admit that to themselves, but it's like at one point they showed you who they showed you their true colors. It's just your heart space and what you desire. Maybe you was talk our listen, that our cats speak for us sometimes,
she be
especially when there's
talking.
a longing there.
Hmm.
And they say when people show you who they are, believe them. But we as women, we're very nurturing, we're very trusting. And when
Yeah.
it's something that we want, we sometimes overlook the red flags
Hmm.
you know um
Hmm.
yeah, and starting a new relationship, before we even got deeper, y'all, I started asking real questions, not just the cute stuff, what you like, what you don't like. I needed to know, I needed to one, hear how he responded to the things that I told him,
Yeah. Mm.
and
Hmm.
ask really deep questions about what he saw for himself, what he saw for the future, how he navigates anger, and other aspects of like his personality that would show me like, okay, I'm safe. And that was a big thing for me. Do you feel safe with this person?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Now, if there's something that's saying no, or it's like a inner alarm in you going off, that's your intuition saying, hey, no. And give yourself time to
Yeah.
figure it out. That's one thing that I allowed myself to. My relationship happened. It happened to me. It happened kind of fast, and I learned this from one of my therapists. She said just because it happened fast doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's not healthy.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
when she said that, I was like,
I need to hear that.
"You wanted something like." Because it happened, quicker than what how your mind is telling you that it should happen, doesn't mean that it's not healthy and good for you.
Yeah.
And just because it's healthy don't mean that it's not going to be triggering, because it is going to pull up those things. A healthy relationship will still trigger you because it's going to cause all of those insecurities, all those fears that you may be still holding on from the past.
Hmm.
And being vulnerable means that you are able to acknowledge that emotional debris that you may still have. And yes, I'm over it. And I was over it when I met him. But those scars that I still have are ever present and they're a part of my story. And it's not something
Yeah.
I can just forget. So I had to learn how to um and essentially trust myself again and
Yeah.
rebuilding that self-trust.
Mm. You mentioned earlier, like as you were talking about like triggers, you mentioned earlier, my God, it just left me. But there's I think sometimes we think of triggers as like only this negative thing,
Yeah.
right? And something you said earlier triggered what we are talking about now, but it triggered this thought of when we are, you don't have to be fully healed. That's what you
Yeah.
said. There is no such thing as being fully healed, right?
Bye.
We it's a lie, it's an
It's a
illusion,
lie,
it's not
y'all.
true. If
Not
you are
true.
fully healed, that means there
Yes.
is no more breath in your body.
Yes.
And you have gone over yonder. But there, like, I think we get to a really nice
Yeah.
healing space, right? Where we're secure, we're in alignment, we're grounded, we know who we are, we know we're like we've met that version of us. And then we meet somebody, whether it's friendship, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's a business thing, partnership, right? I think I'm a firm believer that we're never fully healed, yet we've like when we're doing the work, we're allowing ourselves to transmute and like almost like a video game, right?
Yeah.
Move to that next level, because
Yeah.
at that next level is where you're going to meet people who are going to trigger the things that are next on your list of things that need to be addressed, right? So one thing that was triggering for me for a while was my miscarriage,
Mm.
because of how, like, just that whole moment of like my son leaving, and then everything with my ex-husband and him going to jail, and our thing, and then the miscarriage, like all of that, right? So I would always be in this space of like, oh God, no. I don't want no more kids. I don't want to deal with this. I'm good. I want to live the single life and travel and do all these things, knowing that's not what I really wanted.
Almost like you tried
Right?
to talk yourself out of it.
Right. And for a long time, I've been in a good place where every time like my miscarriage anniversary would come up, I would just like, I know she's with me. I know she's lingering around. She's hanging out with me. She's one of my spirit guides now. But then last weekend, we had rescheduled, and all of a sudden all these things started coming up for me.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, wait, I'm sorry. What are we doing here?"
I thought I was over this.
I thought I was over this, and
Yeah.
something triggered, and it was like something earlier that week too, but then it was like it paused, and then it something triggered, and it was just like I want I miss being a mommy.
Mm.
I miss the everyday waking up, get ready for school. It's loud, it's kids stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
Somebody pulling on me saying mommy every single day, right? um i I miss like waking up and cooking for my spouse, and I'm like, I know I'm meant to be a wife.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with my girlfriend one day, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I know that this is what I really want. I want my chocolate husband. I want my chocolate babies.
Yes.
Right? And it's like at some point I had allowed myself to do that deep healing work of connecting back to my womb space and letting go of, whatever dream I thought I was going to have with this person, and building a family with them, and then my son integrating in, and like all these things. And I was good. And as random as, I mean, as grief can be too, right?
Yes.
As random as some of these triggers to healing can be, it's like at some point God's like, okay, I got to do this one more time for you, because there's still some residue in there, right? And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is the greatest gift that you can give yourself, and it's the hardest thing to release.
Yeah. It is. It is. Um, One thing that I've learned, and I remember speaking to a therapist that I worked to at the time, um, when she said healing doesn't mean like you won't be scared, but it means that you won't let fear lead. I'm gonna say it again, okay? Healing doesn't mean that you won't be scared. It means that you won't let fear lead. And I was like,
Girl.
okay.
The chills on my spine right
The
now.
forgiveness was
Mm.
really hard for me. Um, Forgiveness was it when I say it was a struggle, because I'm known to hold a few things on my heart, which ultimately is not healthy for me, which is not only did I have to forgive him, but I had to forgive myself, because I realized my anger directed towards him was a lot. There was also a lot of self-blame in there as well, because how did I let this happen? Why did I go through this? Blaming not only myself, blaming God. Like, why? And it wasn't until I got to a point that said, Rakia, you're okay. Rakia, you're safe. You're no longer there. You can forgive him. Why? Because that relationship, as much as it did come with some scars, it also allowed you to love yourself. It taught you how to love yourself by showing you what you don't want.
Mm, mm. They didn't hear you in the back.
And that's what it did. And that's just real talk. Like, it showed me what I did not want. And it's like, okay, I know I don't want that. I don't want
Mhm.
somebody who treats me like that, who talks to me like that. You got to handle me with care. Okay. I'm God's
Yeah.
baby. You can't just talk to me any type of way. And if I give respect, I expect to get it. So if I'm being disrespected somewhere, it's like, okay, disrespect doesn't equate to love.
Mm, mm,
It doesn't mean that you love me by the things that you're doing to me or your actions or your behaviors, or you even trying to harm my body by being with other people that can harm my spirit.
mm, mhm,
That's not love.
mm-mm.
And I had to start recognizing, taking away the words and listen and watching the action. Words are talk. I needed somebody who could walk the walk. So you can tell me that you love me and show me something completely different.
Yeah,
I had to get clear with that.
yeah. So that makes me think about boundaries, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of I had to learn boundaries coming out of I this ta- my those relationships taught me that my grandma's calling. Those relationships taught me boundaries, right?
Mm.
Um and so here's my question, right? Cuz in a marriage, some people
Mhm.
think that once you get married, ain't no boundaries. They just
False.
disappear. What's mine is yours, yours is mine. I need to know
Yeah.
everything. I need to see everything. Like, and I had to have this conversation with my ex-husband where I told them, I said, I do not want to try and do anything but continue with this divorce because you violated my boundaries.
Mm.
And when everything first happened, I was contemplating the divorce. I was like, oh, but I love him and I'm sure he can change. And he said that he would do therapy. And my therapist was like, but is he in therapy? And I was like, well, no, but like there's time. And she was like, so listen,
You made excuses.
right, right. Because because of the potential that I know this person has, whatever, I wanted to see them win. And I had to
Mhm.
get to a point where the love that I had for them moved from romantic love, that eros love,
Yeah.
back to agape love,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I can still see you win and not be attached to you
Yeah.
and be okay with that, whether you understand that or not, right? So my therapist said to me, she was like, I want you to know that you filing for divorce is you setting a boundary.
Mm.
And I was like, I've never thought of divorce that way. Right.
Mhm.
So for anybody in the room that is also looking at this as like, okay, but like divorce is shameful, divorce is negative, divorce
Yeah.
it means something bad. No, honey. No, no, ma'am. Whatever they done told you about divorce, women are getting free. Divorce is a boundary.
Yeah.
Divorce
And an
lets
act of
that
self-love.
Yes, yes, yes. Divorce lets this person know, oh, I can't play with her like that.
Mhm.
I can't do that to her,
Yeah.
right? And reminds you that you are in control of your authority. You have
Mm.
authority over how you want to be treated, and divorce does that, right? So when we talk about boundaries, how does that show up in marriage as opposed to like just dating and personhood, right? Outside of marriage, what does that look like in marriage for you?
So for me and my husband do have boundaries. And I think boundaries within marriage has a certain degree. Because I think people think like, you're married, so what's mine is mine, what's theirs is theirs. However, I still believe in consent. And even though we're married, consent is still very big and it's still very big in my marriage. So there's just like certain things that before I go and touch something, I'll ask because it's not mine, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And there's like, so um my husband also has a spiritual practice and he has some spiritual tools. And because I know how I feel about my practice and my spiritual tools, if there's something of his that I would like to see or look at or a deck of cards or something like that, before I just go over and touch it, I'll be like, well, hey, like, is it okay? Can I do this? Is it okay with you if I do this? Or, hey, babe, do you mind if I touch these things? And I had to learn, like, you have to be okay, even if he says no. That doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It just means that these things belong to him. And that's a boundary that he has set. There's certain topics that we may not discuss because it's like, hey, that brings me back to a really dark space. I would rather not go there. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, babe, like I hear you, I see you, and I respect what you said. And that just makes me love him more because there's that boundary of respect there where he says, hey, I recognize that this, whatever it is, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Me doing this triggers something for you, or it makes you feel, and it makes you feel uncomfortable in a way. And I don't want to do that for you. It's not what I want to cause. So if your no is a no, then your no is a no.
Yeah.
And whether it's respecting space, whether it's respecting like a timeline, because it's interesting when you get married. For me, a lot of people kept asking, like, okay, when are you gonna have a baby? Okay, when are you gonna have a baby? And like, even though we want kids, yes, we had to start placing boundaries even when it came to other people. Like, hey, respect our time. Give us
Yeah.
time to enjoy the marriage. And that was something big when it came to us, even when it comes down to like spiritual practices or our views of a higher power, and I can respect somebody having a different spiritual practice than me. There's a boundary drawn there where I won't disrespect your practice just because it looks different from mine.
Yeah.
So there's some things in our marriage that we have merged. And then I think people fail to realize that even when you're married, yes, you are a unit, but you're still an individual. You're still a
Yeah.
person. So they can have outside friends outside of their marriage. They can still have some things in what they were doing before you. As long as it's not violating, your vows or your commitment to each other, that is fine. Those are
Yeah.
still boundaries. My girl time is my girl time. And it's like, hey, close the door. Okay. The girls are girling. We're girling right now. I'm in my girl mode. Have my girlfriends. We're talking about a lot of girl stuff. And he'd be like, okay, cool, my bad. Respecting that boundary that she still needs time with her friends. There's still other
Mhm.
relationships that she nourishes outside of this one.
Mm.
And when you can find somebody who respects that about you, and you also have to give them that same respect and a regard when they say, hey, look, my time with the guys is my time with the guys, or whatever their boundary is, and still knowing it doesn't mean that they love you less. It doesn't mean that they don't want you a part of their life. It just means that this part is reserved for them.
Mhm.
Even when it comes down to like self-care days, like I'm a DIY girl. Okay, when it comes down like to my maintenance and things like that, sometimes I don't want to be disturbed, And
Mhm.
I I think when it comes to drawing a boundary, effective communication goes in there, because I never want my partner to feel like I'm shutting him out, but I let him know, like, hey, I know that we're within this marriage, but Rakia still needs some time for Rakia.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to be within my own energy. And my husband respects that. And in return, when he needs that space to himself, he gets that as well. And I respect that because he needs time to sit with himself. So it's interesting to see how like some people view marriage and like how boundaries may come up, or taking time for your space, or still maintaining your own individuality within the unit.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I need somebody that's gonna be like, cool, you good by like I need a lot. I need alone time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was really big for me, especially coming out of the relationship with my ex, because I realized that we were always together. And when people say like, oh, don't lose yourself, I heard that a lot when I first got married, but nobody really explained what that looked like. And
Yeah.
over the course of time, I just developed my own definition. And what it means is when you enter in a new relationship, especially coming out of one that may have been toxic or dealing with a narcissistic person, you have to remember to take time for yourself,
Yeah.
because you can get so caught up in the feeling of love and the butterflies and what they call the honeymoon phase, that sometimes and as women, we are nurturers, so we start to overpour and we start to overgive, and sometimes we can forget ourselves.
Mhm.
And if I had any encouragement to share with anybody, it is to remember who you are even within the connection, because that's what
Yeah,
brought the connection to you in the first place. So
that
make sure
part.
that you're carving those things out for you, and also being able to balance, knowing that your alone time is going to look a little bit different now.
Mhm.
That was hard because it's like I
Mhm.
spent these years by myself. So allowing somebody into my space was like, It almost was like pulling teeth, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. I love my man. I love my baby. I love my baby because he didn't make that transition wasn't hard. Like it was hard internally, but he made because and I moved in with him. He made that space comfortable for me,
Mm,
you know, even though I was moving into his space, which I was very uncomfortable with at first because it was like, no, can't nobody ever tell me they're gonna kick me out. I had a really deep fear of that. And moving into our home now, when I first moved in, it was things that he rearranged. He threw out some stuff. He moved the house around, you know. He know that I need my workstation, whether I'm doing my readings, or I need that time. And he created that space for me. And that further showed me like this man really does love you because he listened to what you said and he was willing to make changes for you,
yeah.
you know.
Mm.
Hold on to it. If you got an idea that you want a baby, you want a partnership, even despite the things that you have been through, I can assure you that it is out there because God's love for you, God's promise to you is that you would be fulfilled and that you would have it. It's
Yeah.
already written for you. So yes, you went through
Mm,
that experience, but it doesn't mean it's like delay is not denied. Just because you went through that experience doesn't mean that life is over. This
yeah.
is the life after. And life
Mm,
after is beautiful. Why? Because now you know who you are. You know what you desire. You know your wants. You know what you don't want. And you still know that nobody's going to come to you fully healed.
true. Yes.
But you'll be in a better space to receive because now you understand what it means to receive love.
Mm.
Whatever love means to you.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the authority. I've been using that word a lot too,
Mhm.
authority, even just like naming things for myself. But you have the authority over which experience you want to live,
Yeah.
right? Because even if you're not in that abusive space anymore, you can still choose to keep living in it,
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point.
right? You can choose to keep living in it and distance yourself from what it is that you keep wanting. My like this keeps like itching since we've been talking
That's
about
that
it.
third eye, girl. Your vision
Yes.
opening up. That's that third eye happening. That vision and open up. As you was
Yeah.
talking and you said that, damn, it's escaping me. Okay, keep going. Keep going. It'll come back. It'll come back, yo. That's what happens when spirit gets in the room, okay? And it starts
Yeah.
shifting. It starts shifting
Yeah,
some
cuz
things.
Spirit's like just hold on cuz I got something for y'all. But it's I keep coming back to this good old book right here, right? John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly,
Hmm.
right? The enemy done already stole whatever they thought they was gonna keep, right? Whatever experience you've already had, it's now an experience that you've already had. So
Yeah.
you have the authority to learn from it, move from it, right? Alchemize it, turn it
Yeah.
into whatever you need to move forward, right? That theft part is where we get wrapped up, right? And I'm honest to a fault where I was like, I don't want to do this. And I even told my mom, I said, "Oh, girl, he got to pay me a lot of money to get pregnant again." When deep down inside it's like, sis, you know. You know what it is that you really want, right? Because
Yeah.
I've allowed fear
Yeah. To lead.
of to lead, right?
Yeah.
I've allowed fear to lead. I've allowed fear to rob me of what it is that my heart truly desires.
Yeah.
I've allowed fear to rob me of the vision that I keep having of my beautiful black babies and us having all the photo shoots in the world, and in our home we got pictures of us all over the place, and the playfulness that I know my, you know what I'm saying, like I've allowed fear from these past experiences, from these
Yeah.
past relationships to dictate what my future is going to look like.
Yeah.
But somewhere in there you have to step into that authoritative role and say, no, you can't have my future. You've already had some of my past.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you my future either.
Yeah.
And meet God where he needs you to meet him to do that healing work, right?
Yeah.
To do the forgiveness, right? I cried about having to forgive.
Yeah. Oh, I
Like,
did
God, why
too.
I got to forgive?
I don't want. Oh, I was so stubborn. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And God was like, mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Let's see how long it
Right?
lasts. Let's see
Right.
if it gets you, you know. Because holding on to that stuff, it not only does it make you jaded, but it made for me, I'll speak from a personal perspective, it made me angry.
Mhm.
I was angry a lot. And then I realized that under anger, the root of anger for me is sadness.
Mm.
And I was like, I took authority and I was like, I don't want to feel that no more. And I started telling myself, happiness is a choice. Yeah, it may have robbed you then, but you're no longer in that space. And you can continue to
Mm.
keep allowing this to rob you of being happy now, and preventing you from enjoying all that life has to offer you now. Or you can choose to say, you know what? I'm thankful for the lessons and I'm giving myself permission to be happy.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we as women, we can get stuck in our trauma where we keep reliving the same story over and over again, or we fail to like recognize some things and we'll start dating people who remind us of our ex, and we'll start ignoring the red flags. And for me it's due to like a lack of self-love and knowing ourselves and knowing that we're worthy of more.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a not only a vulnerability wound but a worthiness wound that goes in
Mm.
there as well. And
Mm.
I had to know that I was worthy. You're worthy of happiness. You're worthy of love. I knew I was meant to be a wife. I was not for the streets.
I've
Keys is not
never
for the
been for the
streets.
streets.
I didn't want to be for the, I don't want, I'm not a strong, I'm a strong black woman, but I don't be a strong black woman so much that I can't, where I'm blocking everything out, trying to be too strong. I like to be soft in my feminine energy because that's who I am.
Listen, honey. My abuser even knew I wasn't for the streets.
Mm.
My ex-husband even knew I was not. He's like, he said it. He's like, you not one of them street girls. Like, you like to
Yeah.
be soft. I was like, yeah, so can you start acting like you know this?
And then they use that against you, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
here's what I tell the girls, right? Before get coming out of that relationship, give yourself a period of time, shop around,
Yeah.
date, date them all. Okay. And I was very leery, like at first. I was a real prissy girl. So it was like, I don't want to talk to this person. To me, talking to two people at too many times, just too many energies. And I had to snap out of it. Like, girl, it's okay to date around. It's okay. Dating doesn't mean that you are physically active or sexually active with all of these people. It just means that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And when you start recognizing yourself as the prize, and it's like, okay, let these people know I'm dating you. I'm talking to this person. That way, it really makes people step their game up. And if they want
Hmm.
to be a part of your life, then they'll make that very clear. And
Yeah.
then you get to decide, who you allow next to you.
Yeah.
Shop around, y'all. Girls, don't be afraid to shop around. Get out there. Okay. If you decide to be a free woman, to be sexually active, make sure that you are just protecting yourself, and spiritually cleansing yourself the way you don't catch on no new soul ties. But give yourself a space to have fun, to entertain different people, get to know different people, because getting to know different people, you get to know yourself.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you'll know, like you'll know when you're ready, because a new connection to come in, and it will feel so natural. It won't feel forced. You may have some fears, but they will eat every wall that you think you could have built around your heart for the right person. They're gonna come knocking at it, and your walls will slowly start to come down. They're not forcing
Mm.
their way in. They're allowing you to lead, and you'll realize you'll start softening up. You'll want to be around
Mm.
this person. You want to talk to them. You're inviting them more into your space. And if you can sit back and say, I feel safe with this person, try it out. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that the first person you meet after that relationship will be it. You may run into a couple of frogs. Okay. But eventually you will get to that space where it's like, no, I like this person. This person has a lot of the qualities that I would like in a partnership. And I believe that we can go further. And then you take that authority back and you make the decision on if you want to move forward. And if they're not for
Yeah.
you, Keep shopping, girl.
Yeah. 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 I also want to say, be realistic with yourself also about not so much what you're looking for, but are you also that person?
Yeah.
Because you can have a laundry list of what kind of person you want, right? But are you also a green flag?
Yeah.
That's part of the vulnerability work, right? That's part of the coming back home to yourself and trusting yourself, right? We want to talk about the love and the light and all of those things. But Key, like you mentioned earlier, a question you asked was like, how do you handle anger,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ask yourself that.
Yeah.
Have I handled anger correctly, right?
Yeah.
And even moving even in a sense, even moving away from that abusive space, right? Because the anger that can be triggered in that space is it's not almost intentional, it's intentional.
Yeah.
It's to have that control over your
Yeah.
emotion and how you respond, because now it's like, oh, well, I can control making her angry and also control being her safe space as well, right?
Yeah.
But truly asking yourself, right? How do I respond to anger? How do I respond to these triggers, right? And if you can, satisfactory is the word that's coming to me. If you can be satisfied with where you are at that level, then ask yourself, am I satisfied with my future partner also being at that level?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
therapy is a thing that I need my partner to know. I like I go to therapy. I need you to do the same thing or be engaged in it or know that it's also a remedy, right?
Yeah.
And we know most black and brown men are like, nah, I'm good. Right? I don't need you to necessarily be a yoga teacher, but I need you to be connected to your body.
Yeah.
Have that internal feel of, okay, I'm starting to get angry. I can feel it in my body. Let me go exit stage left so I don't pop off wrong.
Yeah, I don't want to or project that anger, whatever he's made feeling onto you. In spirituality, we call that shadow work.
Yes.
And uh, and I encourage everybody, men and women, to do your shadow work. And shadow work is the ability to process some feelings and emotions that you may have repressed, whether it's from childhood or it is acknowledging the parts of us that we tend to hide from other people, and maybe even some things that we've hidden from ourselves. And facing those things, and versus using shame and judgment for those feelings that we hide, giving it love and having the courage to call it out. And I totally agree with what you say, making sure that you are also the person who is who is showing up and who somebody can be with. Are you the partner that you seek?
Yeah.
Your actions and your behaviors, because you can't expect somebody to come into your life and to be at one. Nobody is going to check every single check on your box. That's unrealistic.
Hmm.
And a person is not supposed to make you whole, but they can definitely compliment you.
Yeah.
So making sure that you are checking off your boxes for yourself. And then if this person comes in, also being able to respect the fact that they may not do everything you want them to do. That's just
Yeah.
human nature.
Hmm.
But do that, like you said, you would want somebody to, maybe they don't go to therapy, but they know what it is, or they know that there's some healing modalities out there, or they can process, heavy emotions without projecting them onto you. You want your partner to be at a level of self-development and evolvement within themselves, that they also know how to process those emotions, or can at least effectively communicate that with you. The way
Yeah.
you two can process it possibly together. And I
Hmm.
believe that when you're with somebody and you're equally yoked with somebody, they reflect certain things back to you, and it can either strengthen the bond or it'll break it. It's a matter of, are those two individuals still willing to do their individual work collectively?
Mm. Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
And it's one thing that I've learned, and it's like, healing means like making different choices but not avoiding love altogether.
Hmm.
You're never going to be fully healed or fully out of space. You can get to a space where say, yo, I'm ready, but it doesn't mean that, you still don't carry some things with you. That's just, to me, that's just unrealistic. Like I don't still carry that past relationship. There are some scars. My scars are healed, but you, just like any scar, you fall and hit your leg or something like that. The wound may have healed over, but there's still a mark there that reminds you of what happened during that experience, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's
So take your time, yes, but understand that I believe that true love will never return to you void. And I really do believe that the way you love you, I really do believe that the way that you love yourself, you attract other people on that level. So
mm-hmm.
you realize you're meeting people in there. It's something, what's the common denominator? Sometimes the common denominator is you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the common denominator may be something that you keep allowing them to overstep.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're able to identify that and say, you know what, let me take some time away to work on myself, or you know what, something needs to change, then you're able to start vibrating at a different level, and I promise you, you'll start meeting different people on that higher vibration.
Yeah.
So I tell
Definitely.
all the girls, like, hold on, like, if that's what you desire, and it's okay if you don't want that.
Yeah.
There's some women who's like, I don't want it. And it's like, power to the like, I feel you. And
Yeah.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
Don't I try to let I feel like women are shamed so much, especially black women. We're ashamed so much and gaslit so much and told how we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do, what love is supposed to look like. And I tell every woman that I work with, you're rebuilding your own narrative. This is
Yeah.
your story. Feel free to hit them with a plot twist.
Quick.
Hit them with a plot twist. As
Yeah.
long as you, I believe that love of self is the greatest love of all. And if you have that, then you're bound to attract others, even if it's not romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Like your friendships, quality friendships, the love of your
Mm.
family members, you meeting like-minded people or placing yourself, within the energy. If you're in the
Yeah.
energy and love is what you seek, it's bound to come.
It's bound to come. Mm. That was a good place to land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. I hope this has been fruitful. I hope it's been rejuvenating. Um, Let Key's love story, like y'all, I gush every time. I just let the love story. I think that was important, right? Celebrating other people's love, celebrating other people's
Yeah.
wins. It shifts your frequency, it shifts your energy, and it puts you in the field of love and romantic love, whatever it is that you're seeking. It puts you there. um yeah. Oh, I love y'all. Love y'all.
Yes, I do. I love you guys. Um, Marriage is beautiful. And I just want to put it out there that I really do commend anybody who's been married, who's decided to either separate or get a divorce. And for those who continue to choose love, there's a lot of courage in that.
Mm,
And it really does take a brave heart and a courageous spirit to continue choosing love. So if I can leave
yeah.
y'all with anything, choose love.
Mm. Choose love. Choose love. We will see you all in the next and last episode. My God.
No, we're here. We're here.
How did we get here so fast? I think we drug it out on purpose.
Right? Like, no, I don't want it to end.
Right. We will see you all in the next episode. We love you for free. Take care of yourself and each other. Bye.
Bye.